Hello everyone, my name is Atal Malviya and you are watching second episode of Ask Spark 10. In Ask Spark 10, we answer any questions from entrepreneurs about founding a company, raising money, investing or anything related to that. And me, my team and a special guest answer your questions. Today we have Mr. Paul Smith here. Paul is the founder and CEO of Ignite 100, a leading European accelerator based out of Newcastle, London, and Manchester. He has helped more than 100 companies to get to the next stage by helping them, mentoring them, and giving them the best possible things needed for any startup to go to the next stage. Paul, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much, Tal.
Startups ask any questions, and our team at Spark 10 will answer them.
So, first of all, that question is not from the viewers, but the normal question is, are you enjoying India?
I'm loving India.
Fantastic.
I like the weather. Not so much the traffic, but Hyderabad is a great city. It's full of a lot of really smart people. And really enjoying my time here.
Fantastic. Cool. So I think we can start with the first question.
Let's do it.
Let me go for an easy one. So Santosh asked a question. What are the pros and cons of B2B compared to B2C, and why investors prefer B2C over B2B? Do they do that?
Well, here's the thing. I think all investors are very different. There are some investors that love fintech. There's some investors that only invest in property tech or ed tech. Some investors love B2C, but there's a lot of investors that love B2B as well. The first thing to realise is that all investors are just people. They've got different tastes. They prefer different companies. If an investor likes B2B, it might be because potentially they can make more money per customer. If you think about it, if you're going to make £1 million with a consumer app, the chances are you might charge somebody £1 or £10. If you charge them £10, that means you need 100,000 customers. If it's a B2B app, you can charge £100, £1,000. So to get to that 1 million, you only need 1,000 customers at £1,000 each. So different investors come from different backgrounds, they've different tastes. So whether you're doing B2C or B2B, just remember you should be talking to relevant investors who are interested in your space.
Apart from that, one question here is, although the sale size is, or the amount customer is paying one particular customer, £1 versus £10 versus £100, we should also look for the sales cycle of B2B versus B2C.
Absolutely.
And what are the strengths of your team, and whether your investor who is actually preferring B2B, if we assume, can add value on that part or not.
There are so many factors involved when it comes to building a startup and finding the right investors. Is yours a business that can offer subscriptions? Do you have monthly recurring revenue, or is it one-off revenue? Do you have a team with experience? Are you in a market where you are the only team doing this? There are so many factors that will ultimately be the reasons an investor chooses to invest in you.
Next question. It's a very interesting one because entrepreneurs always look for mentors, advice.
Absolutely.
The people who have done it, and they want them, the successful guys, to come and help it. Now, a very interesting question has come from Dilnasheen. She asked from you, Paul, how an entrepreneur can differentiate between a good mentor versus a bad mentor. What do you think?
This is a really interesting question. If you are going to succeed as an entrepreneur in a startup, mentors and advisors clearly can add a lot of value. There are also mentors and advisors who are perhaps in it for themselves over what you want to achieve as an entrepreneur. Ultimately, a team and their advisors and their mentors should be aligned in their vision and their goals. How do you tell? Well, the first thing I would do is I would do some due diligence. I would ask the mentor who else they mentor for. If they mentor for other startups, talk to those other startups. If they work with VCs or other companies, talk to those VCs and other companies. Just in the same way that any investor or advisor will do due diligence on you, you should do due diligence on them. So that's the first thing. Secondly, be very clear from the start about what your goals and what your vision is. And be aware that if there is a clash, if their visions don't align with yours, it's maybe not a good fit. And it's very difficult, and I appreciate this is difficult, to differentiate, to tell the difference between a mentor who is difficult because they push you and challenge you, and a mentor who is just difficult. And some of it is trial and error, but I think through due diligence, asking the right questions of other people and of the mentor themselves, you can certainly find some good mentors to support you on your journey.
And not necessarily all the successful people may be a good mentor, and not necessarily somebody who has not spent out anything, but he can be a good mentor.
No, everyone has different skills, and it takes a lot of different skills to come together to have a successful business. Just because a mentor hasn't been a successful entrepreneur, it doesn't mean they can't give value to you and your company. So you really need to take each person, like investors, on their own merits.
Fantastic. So I'm sure entrepreneurs would actually take that lesson, and then we'll be very, very clear about whom they should go to.
Absolutely.
So we and our mentors always advise, when you come up with an idea, you want to build a business, first thing you should do is go and validate the market, whether there is enough big market, there are people ready to buy a product, is there a problem which you are trying to solve. Now next question, which is coming from Venkatesh Narayanan. He asked, I have already validated the market. Now should I make my MVP, that is minimum viable product, myself, or I should hire a team which can make it? What would you say?
I think this is really straightforward. I think whenever you can, build something, because that means you can test something. You've validated the market, you know there's a problem, you think you have a solution, you may not, but if you are capable of building something, build the least you can that can prove the most value. If you can do that, great. Now the thing is, you don't need to be a developer to do that. There are plenty of tools where you can throw things together. You can use SMS messages to in place of notifications, for example. You can use websites like Zapier.com that let you hook together separate services to create automated processes. So do whatever you can. The thing is, if you do that first, you'll find it a lot easier to attract a team. So do what you can. The more you can do to prove that people find value in what you're doing, the more people will be interested. That includes team members too.
Fantastic. Venkatesh, go out there, try to make MVP yourself as much as you can.
Absolutely.
And then try to put together a team. Cool. Moving to the next question. It is coming from Vivek Gupta. Bootstrapping versus investment for the hardware startup. Which one is better?
The thing is, the day after, you've got to get back to building a business.
Yeah.
You don't need investment. Some businesses absolutely do, but you should do as much as possible yourself. You should bootstrap as far as you can. If you can bootstrap and make money, two things happen. One is, you won't be in such a rush for investment. You can choose when you raise it. But secondly, you will get a better price for the money you raise. The more you can do, the more you can prove, the better valuation you can get, which means you will control more of the company for longer. So always bootstrap. Do as much as you can.
And I think a part of this we have covered in our last episode as well. Which money is the best money? And we say customers' money, because
Absolutely.
you need not to pay any interest. There is no loan, no equity. You're not buying anything. You're not bringing anyone just because of the money. And you're validating the problem. Customer is buying your product. That is the solution of the problem you built, and they are paying for it. So absolutely bootstrap it. Bring the money from the customer if you can. And then if you have done enough and then you want to expand, then seek for the investment if needed.
Yeah, and it's true that not all startups can bootstrap. There are certain products and certain services that need some money to get going. There are sometimes some very complicated products that need some resource, that need specialists. But wherever you can, bootstrap.
Perfect. Now, coming a little ahead from the bootstrapped company, there is a company which is actually doing really well. Quarter-on-quarter growth, 65%. Very good. They are making some serious money. And the founder asked a question. The name of the founder is Paresh, and he asked the question, how would you compete against a competition who is well-funded? Should I seek investment, find a niche, or go to the other market?
That's a really good question. There are very few original ideas in the market. It all comes down to team and execution. I think one thing I would say is try not to worry about the competition. If you spend more time worrying about the competition than building product, you won't execute, you won't grow, you won't be successful. I think a lot of people look in the market and they worry about competition, but realize that that competition have their own ideas, they have their own investors, they also have their own plans. They're not going to be worried about you. If they're worried about you, they'll get distracted too.
Yes.
So don't worry. The way to beat the competition is to build a better product, and you can only do that with focus. Be aware of the competition, be aware of the space you're in and the industry you're in, be aware of the other players. But the number one rule, build a great product that people love. If you do that, you can win.
And now last two questions, and these questions are from our team of Spark 10, because we have recently chosen 10 shining team for our first batch of Spark 10 Accelerator program. And many people have contacted us back then how we can actually get to the next batch, and if you want to do something more than that. So we have chosen two questions. I believe those are very, very important for the teams looking to get into the next batch of Spark 10. The first question, what are the key points or key areas we should focus and build so that we can be the company which is eligible to get into the Spark 10 Accelerator program?
So we've interviewed over the last few days 20 teams in the finalists to pick our final 10. So if we think about what worked in those interviews and what didn't, I think one of the biggest points would be that if you want to either look at attracting team members, attracting investment, or applying for Spark 10, you absolutely need to know that there is a problem that you are solving. You should validate the market. Talking to people who are potential customers, it costs nothing. It's very easy, and you can do it very quickly. You can do it face-to-face or with surveys. So just know that there's a problem, because you'll be asked, how many people you spoke to? How many people have this problem? And if you haven't spoke to anyone, and it's just your assumption, it's not good enough. So know that there is a problem, and know that by speaking to a lot of people. Secondly, I think the big thing we're looking for at Spark 10 is that people who want our help. That sounds really obvious, but so many people think they have all the answers, and if that's the case, there's not much we can do to help them. The point of Spark 10 is that businesses are more valuable when they come out than when they go in, and they can only do that if they've got an open mind. Of course they have their own ideas. We need strong founders who have belief in themselves and what they're doing, but they've also got to be open to what mentors say, what other people say, what consumers say, and they shouldn't be afraid to fail. They shouldn't be afraid to change things. So one thing we look for in the interviews is, how coachable is this team? Can we help them? Are they going to listen at the right time? They should be confident. They should take that feedback and still do their own thing. It is their business. It's our job to put a hand on the shoulder and guide them. It's not our job to take teams by the hand and lead them. And that's the difference. We need teams that are coachable.
Cool. So two key things. Know your customer, go out there, talk to them and understand the real pain point and try to solve it. Second, build a team which is credible, coachable, and they can understand the reality of the business. Is all about change if it is needed to be changed. So you have not done it, you have not finished everything. Maybe keep on seeing the new changes, your competition may be coming, market will be changing, or something else will be happening. So you should be ready to change.
The two things that every successful startup has, they have a sense of optimism, they can see a future that other people can't imagine, and they can see how they're going to get there. They're visionary, but they're also realistic, they're pragmatic. They understand their situation day to day, and they realise that they need to iterate, they need to change, they need to keep adapting if they're going to reach that vision, that goal.
The last question of the show, and it is from Rajesh from Spark team, because many startups are coming and asking and discussing. One of the things which he has spotted is a lot of entrepreneurs are trying and failing. If they are failed, they are actually not able to figure it out how to kind of pull everything together and start again. What would you advise for these guys?
Well, the first thing I'd say is that it's okay to fail. Failing actually means you're learning something. It doesn't mean you have to stop. It's really hard, especially if you're very passionate about a project or a product or a service. You can put a lot of time and effort and money into it, and it still doesn't work, because that's not how the world works. If people don't want your product, if it hasn't quite found that place in people's lives, then maybe it's a failure. That's okay, because you'll have learned so much by doing it. And that means you can do it again, try something else with all of that learning, with all of that knowledge that you've learned by failing. If you have just failed, if something hasn't worked out, I think the first thing I would do is take a break. Step back from it all, go and see the real world again. It's very difficult to get caught up in startups and the hype and the mania and the industry. But appreciate what's important, whether it's family or friends, whether it's traveling or reading. Take some time out, take a break, re-energize before you try again. But do try again. Because failing isn't the failure. It's not trying again when you've learned so much.
Absolutely.
That's the failure.
One guy would fail when he would not try again. He would not fail if he'll be try again, and one day he will reach to the point he wants to reach. So that's the point. With this question, we are reaching to the end of the second episode. Ask Spark 10 is here to help. I would like to first thank you, Paul, to taking out time and give fantastic advice to the entrepreneurs. I'm hoping you will enjoy the weather here in India. It's definitely not as shiny back in London or Newcastle.
It's not, no.
And I will repeat the things. Entrepreneurs can ask any questions they may have. We are here to help and answer any questions. So use Ask Spark 10 as a hashtag. Send us an email at askspark10@spark10.com or tweet us or just send a message on Facebook. You reach out to us with your questions and we will answer them. Thank you very much.
Startups ask any questions and our team at Spark 10 will answer them.